Okay, our first question is from Michael in Michigan. And his question is, I live in Lower Michigan. My dome is fairly large and has a hot roof design utilizing the spray foam insulation against the inside of the roof deck. I'm looking at replacing my roof and there is no venting. I have a rectangular skylight near the center of the top of the dome, which I believe would prohibit the installation of a vent cupola. Is it necessary for a cupola or can I use standard roof vents to provide exposure to permeable underlayment? If so, I would put the permeable underlayment on top of the ice and water shield membrane over the entire top of the dome. I am also considering Malarkey Legacy shingles with Malarkey Secure Start permeable underlayment. So yeah, so really it's a lot about the ventilation of a non-vented dome shell, but ventilating the underlayment essentially.
Let me answer one part of that. If you've got a ice and water shield, is that what I'm reading here?
Yeah, ice and water
shield over the entire whole dome. And then you're thinking you're going to put a permeable underlayment under the shingles, which means it's breathable. There's a brand name that we use, it's called Deck Armor. It's not going to make the dome breathe because you have ice and water shield, which is a 100% non-permeable barrier that you just covered your dome with, which is good and bad. You have foam underneath it. The worry that we have is that the plywood or wafer board, depending on the brand of dome that you've got, is trapped between the foam, which is a vapor barrier, and the outside ice and water shield, which is a vapor barrier. If your plywood is dry, that's fine. The foam will absorb some moisture out of that. If it's wafer board, it's problematic because wafer board does not give up its moisture. Chipboard, wafer board, whatever you want to call it, it's not particle board. So that's kind of leads to how do you actually get rid of any moisture inside the wall cavity? If you've got foam, there really is no way to do it inside the wall cavity. Breathability of the inside of the dome, the air you breathe, should be handled by an air-to-air exchanger. The vent cupola that we use on top of our domes is for the domes that are vented. That is, we have insulation that doesn't go out to the outside layer of plywood, and we're taking that air and exhausting it out. It doesn't mix with the inside air that you breathe. It's a venting area on the cold side of the fiberglass insulation. So when you got foam in there, that changes the whole mix. You have a hot roof, and the idea inside is you need to control your inside air vapor. There is a reason if you have some moisture issues near the top of your dome because you used foam and you didn't use enough of it, and you have some condensation. These vapor diffusion ports have been tried, but it's a hard one when you got ice and water shield. You have to have some holes going through that, and then you got to cover those holes so the water doesn't get inside of it. So there's ways to do that to try to make that wafer board more venting, more permeable, or the plywood allow some of the moisture to escape near the top of the dome. Derek, you can talk about some of the issues relating to the foam and fiberglass mix in there and how to deal with the inside air that you breathe.
Yeah, so and I guess as as Dennis was answering that question, we kind of made the assumption that the foam you have is closed cell foam. And closed cell foam is
True.
non-vapor permeable, and that would be a better foam to have in that situation than an open cell foam, in which case the water vapor, if you're in a climate like Michigan, when it's cold outside, your struggle is to prevent water vapor from the inside, that is warm air, from condensing on a cold surface. And so if you have enough closed cell foam, it shouldn't be a problem. But if it's open cell foam, the water vapor can actually work its way through the foam and condense on the bottom side of the plywood. So that's something that if it's open cell, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, it's a ventilated dome structure is nice because it kind of simplifies a few things in this particular climate zone, but hot roofs are perfectly fine. And according to the law of building science, if it's closed cell foam, you can have a non-permeable underlayment on that. As far as fiberglass, Dennis, did you just want me to talk about a non-ventilated dome with fiberglass in the cavities? So you could do like the vapor.
Yeah, go into the ERV, HRV thing.
Yeah, if you're to go to the HRV or ERV, that's going to be more for ventilation of the interior air of the structure. So there's two different types of ventilations, I guess, as we talk. And for those of you who maybe aren't familiar, I should quickly explain that. But in a lot of buildings, it's called a ventilated roof. And what that means is there's an airspace that separates the shingles and the plywood that support the shingles from the interior insulation. And so there's almost like a little airspace in there that as the sun hits your structure and it warms it, it actually kind of creates a chimney effect, and it pulls cool, dry air down from underneath and it ventilates it through. In this case, Tanner put a picture of a dome with ventilation cupola on top. So then the air comes out through that. There's a way for the air to flow through and come out from underneath of that ventilation cupola. So that allows cool air to enter the dome shell cavity, which is different than the interior air. It's separated from the interior air. So when it comes to the interior air, especially on newer, higher performing structures where they're very tightly sealed, which does not let a lot of air from the outside to just naturally kind of come in through different cracks and holes in your structure, you need to have an air-to-air exchanger, which simply pulls stale, moisture-laden air out of your home and replaces it with fresh, clean air from outside. And the big difference from having just two holes in your dome, letting air circulate through, is that this, like in the wintertime, it will capture a lot of the heat from the exhausting air and warm the incoming air, essentially trying to allow you to get fresh air inside without losing all that heat. So it increases the efficiency of the air transfer. So it lowers the load on your heating and cooling as well. It does the same in the summertime. And if you live in a warm, moist area like Florida or somewhere, that's where the ERV versus the HRV, which is energy recovery ventilation system, and HRV is a heat recovery ventilation system. Because down there, you got your nice conditioned dry air from the air conditioning running. It dries out the inside air and you're bringing in moist, warm air from the outside. And an ERV will actually absorb some of that moisture coming from the incoming air, and it gets into the exhausting air so that you dry that air out as it comes into your home. So it's really just a tool or a machine that's designed to just put fresh air in your home without the cost of a lot of lost energy.
I'm going to add into this. Michael is asking where he should put this permeable underlayment. The ice and water shield that you have on your dome, if it is still in very good shape, and you'll see that when you take the roofing off, you don't need another underlayment. The ice and water shield is the underlayment for your shingles. We do it all the time. If it is a name brand and it's still in good condition, it still has pliability to it, it's still, we'll call it soft, but pliable. when you're putting your nail through the shingle, it seals up around that nail. So it's an underlayment, totally waterproofing your dome. If you were to use the Reinke aluminum shakes, that's what they recommend under their shingles. That waterproofs the dome, and the Reinke shakes protect that underlayment, which we use as Grace Ice and Water Shield Ultra. It's rated for 300 degrees under a metal roof. That Reinke shake is simply doing that. It's protecting it. Water will go through the Reinke shakes, wind-blown and otherwise, but it rolls back out again along this Ice and Water Shield layer. So there's a lot of issues we just kind of ran across here. I want to say something else while we're on that particular cupola situation, is that you don't have to have a view cupola or a cupola that has venting windows of any sort, either that ones you can see out or small little slits for venting the inside air. This picture on your screen is our office dome. It's where Derek currently is. Those windows have, a couple of them have electric motors on them, but we can get up into there. There's a loft area with a bench. Those windows can be opened. One is a sliding window, so in case any power went out, we could open it. But actually, those other ones have crank handles, and the crank handle gets replaced by a motor when you want a motorized window. So this will provide fresh air coming in. It'll provide fresh air going out, the air you breathe. But you don't have to have this cupola. That first picture that was on screen for a long time had a Velux window. It's the brand we use. So it's a roof window, skylight on a window. And that you open up, and it can be electrically controlled, and you will have fresh air to breathe on the inside. In the wintertime in Minnesota, we're not going to open those windows. So that is where we need an air-to-air exchanger. And if we were to open windows in the cupola that has windows in it, that's going to let cold air come in, or this warm air that you've got, you think, well, that's going to ventilate it, but it's going to cost you a lot of money, and you still have to open up windows down below to get air movement through your dome. So at 20 below or 30 below, that isn't going to happen. So you need an air-to-air exchanger. Like we said, a heat recovery ventilator or an energy recovery ventilator. So that's a big issues that we're into these days, because we are sealing these domes up. And that's what we want to do, because you want to control the inside. Your air handling system is extremely important. It is a big cost item, and it really is important. So we certainly, in the design of your dome, if you haven't built one, we can work with you on getting this correct in the different locations that you're in. So that's something that is out there, that you must have a cupola on top of your dome, and you don't have to have a cupola on top of your dome. So.
Yeah, I mean, this dome was built in early 90s. Does that sound right?
In the early 90s, 90 to 92.
So, and obviously there's no problems with any kind of moisture related problems. And Minnesota is a challenging state because it has a very extreme temperature differential between the interior and the exterior during the winter months. It could be as much as even 100 degrees difference in temperature between inside and outside. So it's a challenging environment. If it didn't work right, it would not have made it this long without some major remodels. And as you probably tell from this picture, those are the original shingles, I imagine, and all that's probably was when it was built. So cool.
Right. These are from This particular dome is the dome over at the guest house, and that one was built in 95. And those are, added up quite a few years on what was put on was a 40-year shingle. So they still have many years of life left in them.
Yeah,
So we can move on. The next question is related to that.
a little bit. Yeah, this is more, well, it's related to the cupola, but yeah, a little more for the inside, I guess. If you want to grab that one, Tanner.
So Pam from Wisconsin was asking, is there a way to have a floor under the cupola area for a room, but still have the light go down into the dome? I'm imagining a floor with something like short railings instead of walls and still have a good window view with large windows.
Yeah, there's, I've been in a lot of domes. This is not the best picture of a dome illustrating what you're asking. This is actually the one that's behind me. And this one, the floor was bumped out beyond where it normally would be to accommodate those perimeter lights on the bottom. So to kind of create that effect, the floor actually went a little bit wider in all directions, which kind of closed it off a little more. But you can have that floor railing be down lower than it is in this particular picture. And then you can have, you could even put the, like newer cable railings up there, which really don't obscure much of your view if you kind of wanted it to be more open. So you could be up there. And actually, I think if you happen to get that one of looking out of the cupola down the dome, Tanner, that might be a good example of what. So I just took this picture a little bit ago, and you can kind of see, it's kind of fun to be able to look out of the bottom of the cupola if you can. So this one could have been a little lower. It could have cable railings and the sides could have been brought in, and you would have a lot more of this kind of view from the cupola than this particular one does. But you can absolutely do that. Yeah.
Do you have a picture of the Forest Dome one?
I think, yeah, there should be one. And I was just thinking, didn't at the Fox Dome, they were even thinking of putting a plexiglass floor in their cupola, weren't they, to have it just be transparent when they were up there, just be able to look down
Yes,
at the
right.
dome.
Yep.
I don't think they did, but that was kind of a neat idea. So
Yeah, we do have a customer that did that, and it's discerning of when you stand on it and you're sitting on glass or plexiglass and looking straight down. So this particular picture is what we call the Forest Dome. This was built in 1975. We did not put a floor in it. Derek took the photo near sunset. So the window that you see up there is facing west. You see the light beam coming through. There's no floor. If there was a floor, it would still have light coming through between the railings. And it lights up the east side of the dome. And this is what happens with the sun, especially during the wintertime at the low sun angle. We usually have an overhang on the cupolas to block out the summer sun, but the winter sun goes underneath that overhang. So there's a lot of things we use the cupolas for. In this case, these are windows that open up to ventilate the inside air of the dome. And on the outside of it, there is a venting system with a screen that vents the wall, the dome shell wall on the outside of it. But we don't have to have
a picture of that, actually. If I think if you go back one, Tanner, maybe back 2 pictures, it might, that's easy enough to do. It might show that ventilation that Dennis was talking about. So in the very first picture we were on, if you guys remember, there was that skylight with a little ventilation cap that allowed the air to get pulled in the bottom of the dome shell beyond the insulation underneath the shingles and circulate up and vent out. When you put a cupola in, you might think, well, now we're blocking that off. Not quite that far, Tanner. It's the one of the office window from the outside, the cupola window. But this is one way to do it. And then you can see the ventilation system a little bit. It looks like a little metal piece that's going across the bottom, right above the shingles and below the red siding. That's the ventilation Dennis is talking about. So that's also a ventilation strip that goes on all 5 sides of the cupola and works similar to that ventilation. I'll call it a cap, just so I'm not saying cupola all the time, getting confusing here, but that ventilation cap that Tanner was just on, I guess, just showed us. So
As far as putting a room in there or blocking something off, there are some cupolas that we do with a floor, and so you can go up in them. Derek is in a room up there that has a alternating tread amongst stair, but it is now in the new code, in the new IRC code, and it's defined in the code. Rise and run, angle. It's a much steeper stair than you would normally have, and it's defined by the fact that you never have both feet on the same tread. So you have the right foot on that tread, the next tread, you have your left foot on the next tread up, then you put your right foot on the tread above that. So it's an alternating tread stairway. It takes up half the space of a normal stair. So we've used it many times. It is a steeper stair. We have often suggested people don't have a party up there because on your way down, you need your senses to understand which tread you're walking on if you're not used to walking on those stairs.
And we've seen spiral staircases, almost conventional staircases, a bedroom up in the cupola and a 40-foot diameter dome. We've actually, somebody has a queen size bed up in their cupola. So it's definitely a usable room. You can do a lot of things with it. You can have a lot of options for stairs to get to it, to access it. So
the new code says that if it's less than, I think it's 120 square feet, I have to look back. I just saw the data on that if it's less than 120 square feet in area, and any of our cupolas are less than that, they vary from 60 to no more than about 90 to 100 square feet, if that, on the big 40-foot dome. Then you can use a alternating tread stair or some other ship's ladder to get up into that cupola. They do have some definitions. They do want an exit out of that upper floor, but it's not required because it's under that square footage. But that's what the windows are for. You can get out onto your roof. We often will be doing 2-foot high, sometimes 3-foot high windows up there that are 2 feet or 2.5 feet wide, each one. So you can open that and you can get out to your roof and work on your roof and do whatever you want. Somebody's got a catwalk, or it's usually called a widow's walk. And supposedly it's a widow's walk, not because someone fell off the roof from there, but it was a widow's walk to watch for the ships coming in. This is the New England area that it started out that way on their cupolas that they had on their houses. All right.
okay. I'll grab the next one from Delaney in Minnesota. I like to put a film on the outside of our main picture windows in the living room to prevent bird strikes and reduce heat gain / loss. I'm specifically looking at Kaleidoscape. The installation process is similar to that of wallpaper. Would this damage the window at all?
The word that she has is the company. So it's Collide, that's COLLID, and then escape, ESCAPE, collideescape.org. And you can go there, it's an online store. They have a window coating that creates a pattern on the outside, not on the inside. If you put it on the inside, that's not going to do what it's supposed to do. Plus, it's going to change on a double pane skylight or triple pane skylight. It's going to change the makeup and the air, I should say the sun reflectance on that. So it's designed to eliminate the birds running into your windows. We have an issue. I just turned my computer around so you see the large grouping of windows that we have. They go up quite high. We've got 9 windows in a group here. And we have tried these reflective small owls. You might see a few here in back of me on the windows, on the skylights. We've also used computer discs. And there's a certain time of year, Tessa, is it right now? Yeah, in the fall. The sun angle is, yeah. They're seeing the forest, not for the trees. They're seeing the forest. And
The
they're
reflection.
trying to get into the forest. So then we've got a string of CDs about 6 or 8 inches apart. And the idea would be to string that across from one little stand or offset pole to the other in front of the windows to keep the birds away from the windows. Now, it doesn't help that we have our bird feeder near the windows on the side over here. And we're trying to attract the birds, and we got a suet feeder out there. Yeah, we're going to try this material that she's got. There are several patterns when you look at their site. You can see the different patterns. They're polka dot pattern, or they're real stipple pattern, or something that really changes that reflectivity on the outside, especially for the birds. So it's a good idea. And like I said, it's not going to damage the window if you put it on the outside. It's not going to damage it at all. So, Pam, does that answer all your questions, kind of? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so the next question is from Judy, and she's wondering about radiant heated floors.
You know, you're a good one for that, Dennis. since
Yeah,
you're in a
well,
house with radiant heated
We
floors.
are here, and that's the floor plan that Tanner put up on the screen. This is our radiant heated floor. We have, when you look at that space, this is a 49-foot diameter dome. So we've got over 2,000 square feet of space on the main floor. And these are 5 different zones. When you look at the colors on this, you'll see 5 different zones. And it starts in the laundry, pantry, utility room, and has a tube going out, and then back and forth at 12 inches on center. When you get near the door openings or the large window openings, they're a little closer than that. So that heats our house. Yes, we have a wood-burning fireplace, a large wood-burning fireplace. That's our social fireplace. The floor that you're seeing here, the tubes are on top of the foam insulation. And we've got basically 2 inches of foam insulation. There's a test pattern in the middle that showed us that we should really be using 4 inches of insulation underneath the slab to stop the heat transfer going into the ground. So the big thing that I'm going to say is the cost. This should not cost a lot to put in. The people who know how to do it and have done it before, that's I'm talking about contractors, are going to charge a reasonable price. The ones that don't know how to do it and say, well, yeah, sure, I can do that. Not done one before, but let's do it. It may not be done well. It may not be done correctly. This design is done by our designer that we have. It's not our designer, he's a consultant. And Keith has understood domes a lot. I just learned of a figure that's being used in the contractors class that I take. And in Minnesota, in a 2,000 square foot house, now ours is more than that. We've got a full second floor. So the 2,000 square foot house is not just the main floor, that's the whole house. Being heated by conventional heating, not radiant floor, and dealing with modern furnace, modern equipment, and natural gas. So the average heating bill in that house is figured out at slightly over $1,200 a year in Minneapolis, in this climate zone that we're in. We have 3,200 square feet of space. We have a large upper floor. And we're dealing with an area here. Here's some data that Tanner's put up, 2 different heating seasons. There, the total gas heating cost was $449. The other one was $439. This was a slightly warmer winter, but our 10-year average for heating this house is $530 a year, not a month. And you can see on these figures, either one of those. Here's one, the first year, the highest bill was $127. Here's another one, and the next year was $121 in the dead of winter, which is that middle January to middle February. That's a lot different than a modern, up-to-date, meeting code house with new equipment in it that's got 3 air changes per hour. It's a tight house. That's what conventional houses are going to cost in Minnesota. So ours is far less than half of that as an average over 10 years. Some years it was $700 or $650 or in that range because it was a really cold winter. Other years like this, it's less than $450 for the year. We have 18-inch thick walls. The R value is 64. Now, if we're going to build a new dome, the R value is going to be in this climate zone. And in a lot of climate zones, it's going to be an R70 to an R72 or R80. That's where we are. Is there a point of diminishing returns on how much R value you should have? If you can tell me what your gas cost is going to be next year, let alone 5 years or 10 years from now, or your electric cost if you go with electric, then I can figure out where your point of no return is. But that's going to be very hard to figure. If you had a static cost, if the electricity was penny cheap, as they used to say, because it was at some point, it isn't now. We are on off-peak electric. I can switch. I have an electric boiler that heats the water for the radiant floor. That runs me, I think it's 6.8 cents a kilowatt. It's half the price because we're on an off-peak electric plant. The gas cost this past winter, I'm saying from 21 to 22, went up. It's now projected to rise another 17% as an average. So what are we going to do? We're probably going to switch back to electric, and we'll see what that cost is, because that cost has not gone up, and we're on off-peak. Now, the other part of this, as I end this, is to say, we don't turn our heat down. It's 71 degrees. That's what we set our thermostat at. And we leave it at 71 degrees from usually the middle of October till, well, jokingly, July 1st. But it's really middle of May usually. So we go away for the weekend. We're down in the cities or some other place, or we're up to the cabin. We don't turn the heat down because you're going to draw the heat down in this slab. And now you come back and you have to heat it up again. So you don't win on that basis. At the cabin, we did a little major remodeling on our cabin. We have about 1,500 square feet on our main floor at the cabin. And that's, again, radiant floor heating with 4 inches of foam below it. We adjust that when we want to go up to the cabin. We keep it about 55 degrees. And when we want to go up, usually 2 days in advance. That's all we need. We pick up our phone, dial the Honeywell thermostat, and raise it to 68 to 70. And when we get there, that's what it is inside. So it doesn't take a week to warm this up because the slab is being kept at 55 degrees. So, but we're not there every weekend. We're there at least once a month in the wintertime. And it's, well, 30, 40 below. This is on the border of Canada on Voyageurs National Park. So it's not the northernmost point in the country, but it's close to. So
Okay.
I'm a big believer now in radiant floor heating. This was installed in 2007, 2006, and it's worked fantastically. Tessa can tell you that when she's doing exercise on the floor mat, she ends up taking a 10, 15-minute nap after that on a nice, comfortable floor. There's no drafts. All these big windows, we don't have drafts. There's no cold air rushing down because of the radiant floor. And it's the same temperature upstairs as it is on the main floor. And I guess I missed that physics class to really explain that to you, but it's the same temperature, 71 degrees upstairs. And it's not 85 degrees in the ceiling. There's just a natural, gentle, well, it's not the air you're heating. You're heating, I don't know. I don't know what you're heating. I guess you must be heating the air.
Yeah.
I don't
you,
know.
you heat it through radiant heat, so it's it's
It's
different.
there.
Yeah.
The air molecules, I guess, could heat it. All right, let's move on.
Okay. This next question is from Tristan from Minnesota. And he recently purchased the Eco Domes in Brainerd, which he believes are natural spaces domes. Unfortunately, this building has not been used as intended for the past 12 years, and we are having issues with the internals. Our geothermal heating, which isn't circulating primarily, or wood boiler secondarily. Our gray water, which has been flooding the basement. I guess I'll kind of jump in real quick. Dennis, you probably have
Yep.
something to say there, but
You do
I'll
it.
kind of jump in quickly just to say, and this is maybe something that is confusing for some people, or they maybe think that a dome has things done differently than a conventional home. And when it comes to the mechanicals, plumbing, electrical, pretty much all of those things is going to be the same as any conventional home. So in this case, they have a geothermal system set up. They would have done absolutely nothing special for that system because it was a dome. It would be the same as anybody else's geothermal system. Same with the gray water, same with the wood boiler. So typically, if there is an issue like this, and it sounds like these, they moved into something that's been neglected for a while, just your normal contractors that you would hire in any conventional house, your plumbers, to kind of take a look at that and see what's going on. As far as parts for it, like if you needed a new circulating pump for the geothermal, it's not a special pump. It's just going to be the same pump that all the other geothermal systems use. So, you know, this year it's hard to get anything done. It's hard to find parts. It's hard to get people to help you. But typically, if you have a dome or a conventional house, all these systems are pretty much the same. And anybody that can work on a system in a conventional house can work on a system in a dome. There are some uniquenesses to the dome, absolutely. But normally when it comes to your mechanical systems, they're all going to just be the same thing. Just like your appliances and all your stuff, it'll all be the same stuff. So I don't know if that's helpful at all. I mean, it doesn't really address that, but I guess my point is when you're looking for contractors or something, the dome shouldn't really be part of the consideration as far as who you're calling necessarily, at least for this type of stuff. What do you think about that, Dennis?
Yeah, we've talked with a lot of contractors and they say, well, how do I figure this out? Well, we've done heat loss calculations on the domes. Basically, they're going to be a minimum 50% less from a heating standpoint. Cooling is the same way. So your system going into this, whether it's air conditioning or heating, should not be figured out on a square foot basis like a conventional house. This should be half to a third of what a conventional house needs. You still need airflow going around. It's an air-to-air exchanger. It's going to get this fresh air moving around in the house. We have that and we turn it on in the wintertime. In the summer, you got doors opening, windows opening. You got kids, your doors are open all year round. So you've got to look at how you want to heat this place. Like I said, we could heat this with the big fireplace we have. This is a Napoleon fireplace. It's sealed. The doors have a gasket around it. Minnesota requires, and has for the last 7 years, sealed combustion units on everything. And what they don't require is a gas stove. But the gas stove is giving off gas particulates in your house. You need to run that vent fan over that gas stove, but you're still standing over that gas stove breathing particulates. So you really should be talking about the new stoves that they have. You're dealing with a cost that's a little higher, but they're going to operate a lot better. Electric stoves. So you're dealing with what's the name?
Induction? Are you thinking of the induction stove?
Yeah, the induction stove. Yeah, our daughter has one and she had a gas stove in it. And as we studied that and the fact that she was raising a child and then was expecting another one, that was it. It took her, 6 months or 9 months to get it when it was ordered. But that's what you should be looking at. California is trying to, I don't know if they have done it yet, outlaw in new construction gas stoves. Minnesota requires water heater to be a sealed combustion unit, so you have to have inside, or I should say outside air coming in for that combustion air, and then it exhausts that air outside. Instead of your old-fashioned gas water heater that's got this hood that's open and air from the inside of the house goes into it. That's not allowed in new construction in Minnesota.
And this is all part of the same reason you need the air-to-air exchangers where the houses
Yes.
are so tight.
Yep.
That if you had the water heater that Dennis was referring to, and it relies on interior air to replace the combusted air as it goes through your flue, it has to be able to pull air in through your house somewhere. And the older houses used to have so much air infiltration, it was never a problem. Same with the gas ranges, but now with these tight houses, when this stuff needs to exhaust this combusted air, it has nowhere to pull in fresh air from. So that's why they have to have their own fresh air supply to them.
Really, the answer to Tristan with the ecodomes, the ecodomes were built using our technology. They've got a wide variety of systems in there that were experimental. Some others were not. There were standard items. They've got an outside cool, I'll call it, and there's a heat coil in the bottom of that. So the idea is that that's going to freeze. There'll be ice layer on the top of it, but the bottom layer would not, and it would gain something from, wouldn't be geothermal, it would be aquathermal or something on that order. But I don't know. Derek may have to be the one to talk to Tristan and see what the real problems are. It is very well insulated. I think, if I recall right, we did 21-inch thick walls in that dome. And that's a vented dome system with 18 or 19 inches of fiberglass. So
Yeah, it's got a lot of the basic stuff in place. They got solar there. They have they have a lot of systems that hopefully, like I'm kind of hoping to interpret what he's saying is hopefully it's just stuff that needs some repair work. And you did bring up a good point with that, is when you size systems for it or you size replacement systems, that's when the dome's a little unique due to its efficiency. Like when you do your your J calculations and stuff. You just, there's a little difference there, but one thing Delaney asked in the chat was recommendations for how to find a good installer. I don't know why I'm even reading it because there's no like good solid question for that or answer for that other than it's just, everybody lives in different states. So you just got to kind of know your local contractors, get good referrals, stuff like that. But yeah, that's a challenge, I think, especially nowadays when everybody's so busy. I just thought I'd mention that, Dennis, in case you had anybody in mind in the Brainerd area. You seem to know everybody in Minnesota as far as who owns domes and everything. So I thought, well, maybe if I mention that, you'll have a recommendation for Tristan, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. That the problem with being in a company and operating a company as long as I do is a lot of those contractors quit, retire, pass away, whatever. But the reality of that is we are here to answer questions. So we do a lot of that. I'm dealing with several people right now. The contractor down in South Carolina. Luckily, he said, yeah, I built a couple of American Ingenuity domes, and he's familiar with the dome terminology. But when I started explaining our system, he's going, oh, gee, that's great. This is good, that's good. Because he was dealing with their system that wasn't as good as what we have from the standpoint of building is the same way. But now, if you talk radiant floor heating down in South Carolina, that's not going to be it. So you deal with mini split systems. Our mini split system that is up on the wall that you see, I'm tipping it up, and that white object up on the wall is the mini split in the open area. Well, ours is an 18,000 BTU. And I should point this up further, there's a cupola up on top. So we have no floor, but there's a cupola with windows that are electrically controlled. But the mini split system is going to give you a lot of the mid-range climate areas what you need. But you also in the South need dehumidification. There's a dome in Missouri that was just built, and the question came back right away. She's not moved into it yet, but she said, it's so humid in there. What am I going to do? Well, slab was just poured. The sheetrock was put on the interior walls. The dome has wood on our standard wood that you see behind me with the spruce paneling. But she said, we've got an air-to-air exchanger. We've got the ERV unit, which helps take moisture out. But this is Missouri in the summertime. And I said, where's your dehumidifier? Where's your extra dehumidifier that can take this humid air out of the inside of your house that you want to seal up and control? And she said, oh, we don't have that because we thought we had enough with the two other units. Not when you build your house, because the concrete has to dry out, has to take that water and it's got to evaporate out of there. So I haven't heard from her when she said, okay, we've got one and we're going to put it in the dome, small dome. And I said, great. I said, call me if you have any questions. That was 3-4 weeks ago, and no call. So she must have been able to bring that down with a dehumidifier. Any house, brand new house, has to dry out. So our house here was probably a good 2 years before we could really control this better using fans and ventilation and getting this humidity out of the over 2,000 square feet of concrete with all this water in it. So that's the issues that we'll help you deal with. So let's move on to the next question
Okay.
that we've got going in there.
So Billy from Iowa was asking, want to know about foundations mainly. Those would include a basement area that could be used for an emergency shelter accessible from the above area. In addition, the basement area would house the hot water heater, septic system output, and maybe the well housing. Our second main question would be the total cost of a 41-foot dome that had a mostly open middle area, and along the outside of the interior dome, there would be areas for a bathroom, bedroom, some storage, and a small kitchen. We would be using the space for our own daily use, for exercise and weekend guests. Picture a grand piano on a full hardwood floor with 5 to 10 or so folks dancing to Tai Chi. A main goal is for the structure to join a growing spaces 25-foot or so dome connected through an extension. The growing spaces folks could probably work well with natural spaces domes. Does anyone have experience working with them?
There's a lot of questions there,
Yeah.
Dennis. I mean, should we just start from the beginning and work through it maybe?
Well, I think the big thing here, the growing spaces dome, it's a greenhouse dome. And we actually sold several greenhouses. We were selling them for growing spaces back in probably the 80s is when we were doing that. And then we just got so busy with our own domes, and in Minnesota, at that point, people weren't doing greenhouses. They go, what? Greenhouses in Minnesota for the wintertime for growing? Nowadays, that's very easy to deal with, and Growing Spaces does have a good system. So I highly recommend them. I don't know if Udgar is still operating, but they've got a good staff. They know what they're doing. The idea on the first part of this question, was they'd like to include a basement area that would be used as their emergency shelter. We have a dome being built, about to be built in Tennessee. That was the question they asked. Well, we need this storm shelter. We need this emergency shelter. So what do we do? How do we do that? And my comment is, first, the dome is your emergency shelter. Our domes are designed as a minimum 150 mile an hour wind speed rating. That's the minimum. There are several domes in Colorado and mountain areas where the wind speed is higher. It's 170, 175. And I asked my engineer, well, what do I have to do here to meet that code? Because we're certified for at least 150. And he said, well, in the engineering pamphlet, you just changed that number from 150 to 175. I said, well, what details do we change? He said, nothing. He said, you want 200? We can do 200. There are some things like the picture that you're seeing. Now, this was specifically designed for the California areas with fire. This is near San Diego. So it's hard to see on this picture, but what we did was put cement board on the outside of our 3/4 inch plywood, fill the gaps between them and smooth out the joints between these cement board, which was 1/2 inch. And then there's a coating put on the outside of that. So we also, above the windows on the left of the screen that are there, it's hard to see, but the soffit area, the part between the window and the overhang of the roof, doesn't go straight back. It's slanted. And it's not vented, because you don't want embers going into that structure. And it doesn't allow the fire to accumulate in that 90-degree space and just kind of burn around a while. They let the embers burn around and twirl around it. They go up and they would go right back out of that space. The same thing over the door. There's a way that we did that door area there. And from the standpoint of the hurricanes, it's the same way. If you want a dome designed for hurricanes, we had a dome in North Carolina, and this is a dome right here being built. This is Beach Dome 2. Beach Dome 1 was moved off of its pilings across the road, halfway into the neighbor's property across the road and halfway in the road, because the pilings failed. They didn't go down far enough. We followed code. Code said either 5 feet or 8 feet above sea level, something of that order, or below sea level. And we just put them down 8 feet. That's all it was. And we had the hurricanes come and turn the sand away on that one and push the dome. And some of the main floor was still connected to pilings. Where they went, I don't know. They're somewhere either in Norway or Morocco. They're gone. They weren't around. This dome here was done not following code, but exceeding the code. The pilings that we bought were 24 feet long, 8x8 pilings. They went down in the ground 16 feet and stood up above the ground 8 feet. And that's that dune line that you see. There's an open space below the bottom of this dome that you can't see. The dune is kind of covering it. And then there's 3 floors plus the cupola. There's the open space that you see below it. And then you see 3 stories plus the cupola. This is 50-some feet high above it. This is built in '98. It's gone through many, many hurricanes. It's very interesting to be in here when the wind picks up in the evening. We've been in a very windy situation. The extension has a master bedroom up in that picture right there that you see on the left picture. On the right-hand side of that 3-story extension. It slightly moves. Well, this is a wood structure. I actually called my structural engineer. I said, we feel some movement in here. And he said, well, you should. He said, this is not a concrete structure. It's a wood structure. There's going to be some movement. Yet there's no cracks in the sheetrock on the inside. We have these roofs. They are connected, these porch roofs. You see the main floor, or it's really the first floor up above grade. There's pilings that are connected to the pilings that go in the ground. And that 24-foot piling continues up to the second roof that you see. That there's a second deck and then there's the roof. That is all bolted together. Never an issue, has not been an issue. We lost some shingles on the south side of the dome, and primarily because I know the guy that was roofing that side of the dome, and he didn't know roofing, and there were shingles that kind of came loose, and it just had to be redone. So after I lost a couple of shingles, we put a area where he had roofed, we re-roofed it, and from that point on, there's been no problems. We have not had damage from any hurricane. It's lost some dune, but there was 150 feet of dune in front of it. So it's really designing the dome and utilizing the dome, taking advantage of its shape. The reason that you see that corner cut off on that 3-story extension, my engineer said, well, cut that corner at 45 degrees. What it does, it stops the wind from kind of back pulling, I'll call it, when the wind goes around that corner and making a turbulence. It leaves that pattern for the wind to go around and just smoothly go around the dome. The cupola roof is all bolted together. It's attached to the dome. It can't be ripped off. The conventional roof over the extension has got hurricane tie-down straps. We spent somewhere in the range of $1,500 to $2,000 in connection ties, stainless steel straps and ties. And that was in '98. So the price is probably double that these days. But you need that in any house, anywhere. What's high wind? 80, 90? The standard wind speed now across the country is 115 miles an hour. That's what you have to design for. So here's us. We say 150 mile an hour wind speed rating. That's where the winds are coming in right now. Probably on my brother's condo down in Florida, in Naples, and my cousin's house. We just talked to her earlier, and it's actually Naples, I think, got 74 to 80 mile an hour winds. And Fort Myers got 125 mile an hour, something like that. So
One thing I'll mention quick, Dennis, just because I'm not sure if we did, but I mean, I think we were kind of excited to talk about how you don't need to worry about so much a safety area with a dome, but you can definitely do a basement if you wanted to for whatever reasons you wanted to. Like the dome I'm in right now has a full basement underneath it. The guest dome over here has a crawl space. Dennis is on a slab on grade. There's people who have block foundation, ICF foundations, permanent wood foundations. So you can do all those same kind of things. I just had to throw that in there real fast because I wasn't sure. We kind of
Yeah,
got
I got sidetracked going off in a different direction. But to answer that question of storm shelter, yeah, you need a space for utilities. And if that's the only space, it may cost you a lot of dollars. That's got to be waterproofed. That's got to be part of your internal air circulation. You have to really watch that moisture content when you're going down on the ground. So is that the best way to handle it? Well, I talked about this customer in Tennessee. What we did was it's a slab on grade. So we took the main floor bathroom that right next to it had the utility room and made that their storm shelter. By doing that, what we did was take the walls and used 1/2-inch plywood, and the nailing pattern on the plywood is 3 inches on center, nailing around the edges, and 6 inches on center in the intermediate studs. So this whole entire bathroom has a layer of plywood underneath the sheetrock going around the walls and around that utility room. The doors have stronger doors there, so they felt that they needed that because they just go into either one of those two rooms. They're in their decent size and ride out the storm. It's whatever you feel comfortable with, your safe room. The dome that we just shipped over to Israel has a different issue. They have a requirement there that they need a bomb shelter inside the structure. And their standard bomb shelter is approximately, I think it's a 4 meter by 4 meter, 12 by 12 room. It's poured concrete. There may be some kits that they have that have it. So we designed that. There's a hatch to go out of that bomb shelter, and then that goes through an opening in the dome that we had to leave open. And this is down in Israel in the Golan Heights. So we all have our issues. we all have things we have to design around. But we have special hold down brackets that we sell and provide and detail out for the dome. They attach your dome down to whatever foundation you have. If you've got a basement, that's still got to be tied together. So we know how to do it. We provide all these special custom brackets, strap ties, a variety of things that we do in our domes. That's part of what we supply. Some of it's built into our dome system. Some of it is an add-on that you're paying for, that you could go out and do that on a conventional house too. So storm shelter to some people means something else. So it's whatever you want it to mean. If you have to have that room down below, if you got a hillside site, there's a different situation. Then you might as well do something.
Sure. Well, I think we might have gotten that. They did ask about the cost, but that's a tough one as well.
We have that cost information sheet or chart on our website. So you can go to the pull down menu and then look at the cost, square footage cost analysis. and you put your total square foot of your building, including a basement or anything else you're going to build, whatever number of floors, 2 floors, 3 floors, whatever it is, take the total square footage and put it into that chart. And that's going to give you a ballpark. And it's a matrix. It'll give you 12 different numbers. And we just did this earlier today here. We put in a certain square footage, and it ranged from $170,000 to $350,000. Because the $170,000 was a totally owner-built structure where you still did everything the most economical way, the cheapest way you could find, maybe 1.5 bathrooms, smaller kitchen, lesser skylights, windows, cheaper brand of windows. And the $350,000 was totally contractor built. I'm sure you could spend more, but it really shows you there's a big difference. It's basically double the cost from one way to build that you do everything totally yourself to having a contractor come in. So, and he does everything, and you don't buy the cheapest and you're buying that conduction stove, you're buying better quality windows, more skylights, a variety of things. So what do you really want? And if you want that double dome, triple dome, there's a nice triple dome. I think it's still for sale down in the Texas Hill Country. It was online for $1.5 million, 8,000 square feet. It's a good deal at 8,000 square feet for $1.5 million.
Right.
That was in California, it'd probably be 3 million. So
Yeah.
California is a unique market in itself. Tesla's daughter is building a redo on their house, and the numbers are up there in the millions. It's a good size house. They have the money to spend on it, but it's phenomenal what that is. But there again, and you're going to need this in your house at some point. You need a dedicated circuit or two for an electric vehicle in the garage. And that's got to run, a certain level of battery storage, because you're going to have solar panels. And you want the solar battery storage, the battery storage to take your solar power and store it. So there's a lot of stuff that we're seeing on the horizon, being built, being used. So it's going to affect your cost, but be aware that you can add things onto your dome.
So there was someone who emailed in a question about hurricanes.
Okay.
They're from Florida right now, so they're going through it now. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on hurricanes, but also you wanted to ask them if they have questions.
Yeah, if anybody's got any open questions, feel free to jump in here. But the thing with the hurricanes is that you need to design your structure accordingly. Where your prevailing winds, hurricanes don't come out of the north. They're going to come out of the south. They could be coming from the east or the west, but they don't come from the north. So you can design your house to be hurricane proof. There are many new houses with good builders that know how to do this from a conventional standpoint, but the dome has the unique feature that it's a round structure. And if you want a stronger exterior, there are ways to create metal shingles that'll take 150, 170 mile an hour wind speed. You definitely want ice and water shield as your water protection on the outside of your structure. We saw that with a guy down the person down in Louisiana, Texas on the marshlands. He used a cheaper shingle and then didn't use a really good underlayment. And the shingles got ripped off The dome didn't get damaged. The porch lost its footings and kind of sagged from the loss of the footings around it. But he had to do some extra work on the inside because the underlayment wasn't there. The hurricane came along and water leaked in through after there was no shingles and some areas had no underlayment at all. So use ice and water shield, that's going to protect you. And that with a shingle roof. We also did the dome southeast of New Orleans. You think New Orleans is on the ocean? Well, there's a dome that's southeast of New Orleans. And his dome is up 20 feet in the air on a platform. And the platform was crisscrossed, reinforced wood platform. His dome is a 33-foot diameter dome. He used the elastomeric coating on the outside of the dome. So there are no shingles to lose. And when he went back, I think it was last year where they had a major hurricane come through, and it was right there in New Orleans. And not a damage to anything that he did. The skylights that we have 1/4-inch tempered glass in the situations down there. A lot of areas require laminated glass. We can provide that. The outside, actually the inside pane is laminated safety glass. So that's all part of what you need to do because you're building down in that area. Any other questions? Any comments?
Let's see.
Who's got the control? You or Tanner?
Yeah, I'm looking in the chat to see if there's anything we could, any advisement direction if someone in the South is wanting to use closed cell insulation and sheetrock. That's from Jay in the chat. So,
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with closed cell foam. It's going to, you need a certain R value. In the South, you think, oh, I don't need much. No, you do. You want to stop that heat from penetrating into your house. So the code is going to tell you that in the South, you just need 2 inches, maybe 3 at the most, and then the rest can be fiberglass. But why are you building a house that meets a minimum code? If all you want is to say, okay, I met code, you just built the worst house you can build. Our recommendations in the South are the same. You want an R70. You want to stop the air conditioning load that you're going to have on that house. We've got a test, 3-probe test temperature gauge here in our house. And in Minnesota, we get to 95, 100 degrees. And on the south side, the sun coming through heated up the airspace. So the airspace was 165 degrees in the airspace. And the shingles here are medium. They're not dark shingles. They're not light. They're a medium color shingle. The insulation we have is 16 inches. So the probe in the middle of the insulation was 110 degrees. The probe on the inside layer of inside face of the insulation was 74 degrees. So that was the inside temperature of the house in the summertime when it was 95 outside. Yeah, we've got a mini split, 18,000 BTU is all it is. We have another mini split in the master bedroom, and the master bedroom has a very wide door over here, and that's got a sliding door that we can close, but we leave it open, and the mini split in there cools off this layer because cold air drops. So that cool air stays down here. And it may be a little warmer upstairs in the summer, but with just a 9,000 BTU air conditioner for most of the summer, we can keep the house cool and dehumidified. That's our big problem in July and August is the humidity here, or it is now. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it wasn't. People didn't have Minnesota air conditioning. Gee, So
And that
Maybe
might
down
be,
south.
that might be part of the question with the sheetrock too, is just all the humidity in the south, so they have a lot of paperless sheetrock now that
Yeah.
is not as big a problem as some of the paper-based sheetrock that you can get mold and different things a lot easier.
This
Yeah,
house here,
humidity.
this Bear Creek Dome, all the walls that are sheetrock, all the interior walls that are sheetrock are done with fiberglass faced sheetrock. It's mold resistant sheetrock. Mold needs cellulose, paper. They need that. And they love to have moist areas. So you need to control that humidity. They also like to accumulate in areas where there's no air movement. So the openness of the dome, getting airflow inside. We've got a ceiling fan way up at the top in the cupola. You can see it past the light fixture. And we do turn that on at times, but that's going to get the air circulation in here. So that's part of what you need. All these different items, all this turned on, the airflow from the mini split system, that's air circulating on the inside. It's not stagnant air. We don't have carpets on the floor. That's a really, in the South, that would be a really bad situation if you wanted to carpet your concrete. And if you didn't have a moisture barrier below it, you've got to have a moisture barrier below it. And you need foam underneath there just to moderate this temperature of that slab. If you're not going to heat it, what's the advantage of it? Well, it's also a moisture barrier, and that vapor barrier is going to help too. So it'll, like I said, it'll take a few years to really get it dry and be able to control it, but it does dry out.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up all the questions that kind of popped in. So I think we're pretty good to go.
Fairly technical evening here, but
Yeah. Well, that's good. And there's a lot to get into. And again, I'll kind of reiterate a lot of this building science that relates to domes is also kind of the same as just conventional houses too. So as you're researching things, there are some nuances to a dome, but it's a lot of the same stuff. So like a dome in the south and a conventional house in the south is still going to deal with moisture. A dome in the north and a conventional house in the north is going to deal with water vapor during the winter, those concerns. And as houses become higher performing and sealed up tighter and higher R values, all these details that never were really a concern because you had a lot of airflow going through to correct problems doesn't happen anymore. So the attention to detail and really knowing how to build it properly is more crucial as a house becomes higher performing. So, but yeah, well, cool. It was fun to do this again. It's been a while.
yeah. But again, I'll reiterate that, yeah, we will answer questions from people who don't even have our dome, that have recently bought a dome, and have issues with it. It's the dome reputation out there that we're concerned about. Hundreds and hundreds of domes that we've done. Domes don't leak, domes don't fall apart. There's just so much misconceptions out there by people who are really talking about something that was built in the 60s by a bunch of hippies, of which, I started out there somewhere along, but, my background is architecture. I work for an architect. That's why I got into it. So the domes that are there that were built in the 60s and 70s are just as, a lot of times, may just be as bad as the houses that were built in the 60s and the 70s. My daughter bought a house built in 1961. There was, in Minneapolis, no insulation in the walls and minimal insulation in the ceiling. And, it's one generation removed. So.
Right. Well, and domes also, come in kits. So a lot of people built them themselves that really didn't know about all the details they were maybe missing during the construction process. But we do have Judy, looks like she's raising her hand. If you got a quick question for us, Judy? And you may have to unmute yourself. I don't know if you can.
Unmute,
There you-
unmuted. There I am.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I think you're the first one to jump in, so this is good.
Well, I'm jumping in and I'm jumping out. I just wanted to say thank you. I'm gonna have a contractor taking a look at plans. And I guess my question before I leave is it something that I go ahead and just give him your information and have a consultant touch base with him directly?
Sure. Yeah, we offer consultation services. If you just wanted to, set up a meeting and just talk about any questions you might have. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, great. I'm gonna come back on the Zoom again, but it's not until the next month, last Wednesday?
I think, well, we haven't done it for a few months because it's just been a really very busy year, but are we planning on it for next month, Dennis?
I think we are. Tessa's got a option she'd like to do is Tuesdays. So it might, we'll advertise it, but it'll be either Tuesday or Wednesday evening is usually what we do is 6 o'clock.
Great.
Tuesday or.
The last Tuesday or the last Wednesday. So,
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
yeah,
Judy.
thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, I'll be in touch.
All
All
right.
right.
And
Take care.
thanks everyone for staying with us and joining in on this discussion. All right.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night
Bye.
all.